So the stock market is absolutely cratered today. The chances of a recession skyrocketing, and we're going to get into all that, the yield curve, what oil is telling us, really important stuff about the global economy right now. So Dow falls 800 points as new recession fears bulldoze stocks. Stocks have absolutely tanked today. They tanked yesterday. They are down a massive amount. So you can see Dow, S&P, NASDAQ, all the major indices are down. If you look at the VIX has absolutely surged literally since August 1st right now. It's up nearly 48%, the VIX. And if you look at crude oil, it has gone down massively over the past couple of days. What is that really saying or signaling? That's telling us that we're heading into a recession. Obviously, demand for oil and energy is not going to be high if the global economy is heading into a recession. And just put this thought in your minds right now. Right now, Canada is in like a per capita GDP depression and recession. What is going to happen when the global economy goes into recession? And obviously Canada's economy, a lot of that is exporting commodities. Obviously demand for those commodities is going to fall. So it's just going to exacerbate the already bad economy. And I don't think I need to tell you where that's going to head. In particular, gold also got hammered. I'm not sure why this chart says it's down 0.05%, but if you actually look at it, it's off about 1.34%. I said yesterday, keep an eye on gold. That's going to really be an indicator of, is this a market crash or correction? And now gold starting to follow the market as well is not a good sign, because it means hedge funds, institutions are selling anything and everything, which means it's a mad scramble for collateral and a liquidity crisis in the making. So if this continues, it's going to be crazy, guys. But the unemployment rate, obviously, we've got that report that comes out next week. I believe we'll have to watch that. I'm predicting it's going to go up a lot. Unemployment just going to continue to go up. That's my base case. I mean, just look at this trend. Sure, it could come back, but I don't think so. I think the unemployment is going to start seriously heading up right now. And you don't need to just believe me. Just look at this video here of what is going on. This is a C&E job fair or something like that. 37,000 people attended this, more than double the applications received last year.
Lines stretch across the Enercare Center at Exhibition Place, with thousands of young people eager for a summer job and over a dozen vendors on hand to interview those patiently waiting.
So there you go. I mean, a job line that long, people just desperate for jobs, and the unemployment rate is just going to continue going up, because obviously if you've got demand destruction, and the key thing here is to look at crude oil, what's going on with crude oil, that is really going to tell you what is going on with the global economy and where the crude oil market thinks the global economy is headed. And this is with all those OPEC cuts in production that we've seen. And you saw the same thing before the global financial crisis back in 2008. And you've just got to think where Canada is right now compared to other G7 and G20 countries. It's in one of the worst positions possible right now, thanks to the housing bubble that's imploding. And obviously, if unemployment starts skyrocketing, they are not pushing back and bringing down immigration. They should be freezing it at this point. At the rate they're going, you're just going to see civil unrest and crime absolutely skyrocketing. In fact, we're already seeing crime that is absolutely skyrocketing. So it's absolutely insane. And then you've got more and more stuff that is going on in the housing market. And this was just one thing I wanted to bring up that I saw. It's just absolutely crazy. Massive lawsuit launched against these home buyers. It's really funny, actually, because Cache is actually from White Gold. I don't know if you've seen that TV series, but it's absolutely hilarious. If you want to laugh after this, go and watch that. But yeah, and you can see here in 2021, the buyers agreed to purchase this house for $1 million. They couldn't close, and basically they've launched a massive lawsuit and took their deposit, and they're even going after their current home. That is what I want to highlight here. So it's just absolutely crazy what you've got going on in in the Canadian housing bubble. And then Table Salt put this out as well, which just again just shows the depression that we're in. You don't need to watch all these massive job lines as well that we just saw there, but you can see here GDP per capita falls under $50,000 now, on par with the sixth poorest US state. So this is the state of what Canada's economy is in right now, where Canada's economy is essentially. And obviously, where do you think the unemployment rate is going at this rate? And then what we've also seen, unlike yesterday, we've seen the yield curve rushing to uninvert in both Canada and the United States. You can see that in the United States now we're just 10.3 basis points away from the yield curve uninverting, which is usually liquidity crisis, recession, absolutely not a good sign at all. And you've got the same thing happening there. I mean, I think it is highly possible that you could see the Bank of Canada cutting rates substantially, 50, 100 basis points. Would not surprise me. And it would not surprise me even if the Fed had an emergency meeting to cut rates if this just continues going the way it's going right now, because it just does not look good. And then you look at the repo market, which we've been keeping an eye on. And yes, yesterday, that's the latest data that we have. You can see that the volume increased. It went from around 34 billion, I believe, up to 40 billion today. So quite an increase, but not as high as it got that 54 billion mark. I think that's billion, but there's so many zeros on there. I'm sure one of you will confirm in the chat and the comments. I'm not a mathematician, and that is a lot of zeros. And today has been a long day. All right, so you got Manulife. That was a bank that stock was down massively. It's off 3.73%. You've also got BMO's stock off around 2.32%. You've got TD down 2.43%, and the Royal Bank 2.21%. And then you've got Laurentian Bank, obviously, which is down like 35% in a year, and you pull it out to the 5-year and it's down like 43%. Laurentian Bank is a primary dealer. They're a systemic bank. They're a bank that we have to watch. Obviously, if a bank like Laurentian failed, that would have massive implications for the financial system in Canada. Now, I just want to say, I'm not saying that they're gonna fail, but certainly them reporting those massive losses was a clear warning sign, and it coincided also with the spike in repo volume. So was that just a coincidence? Who really knows? But it looks kind of obvious that at least one bank in Canada is running into issues. It could be obviously multiple banks. So we'll have to see what happens with the VIX. Obviously, I think at some point you're going to see markets take a breather here. You really want to keep an eye on what happens with crude oil, because that is very indicative of what is going to happen with the global economy. And we mostly need to be paying attention what happens to the yield curve. The yield curve, incredibly important. I've been banging on about this since 2022. The inversion in Canada, the worst since the 1990s. We've even got banks like CIBC coming out saying the housing market is the worst housing market for condos in particular, they said, since the 1990s. And obviously, the 1990s was not a good time for the Canadian banking sector. Lots of banks failed during that time. And you have to remember that a lot of Canadian bank lending is concentrated in housing, and it's also concentrated in commercial lending, which also then feeds back into housing because it's mostly developers, you know, big condo projects and all that, where they're lending the money out. They're obsessed with real estate. This is what a real estate bubble does to you. But what is crazy to me is you've got all this happening right now, coming to head. And as we've been saying on this channel multiple times, the economy right now in Canada is already in recession. In fact, it's been in recession since 2022 when I was saying it was in recession. And that's where the per capita recession really started. And as I've been saying for the past 4 to 8 weeks, we are now in a depression. In fact, I think I've been saying that for the past 3 to 4 months. And what you're going to see more and more is this realized with more and more people, unfortunately, losing their jobs. That's something that I really don't want to come out and say, that lots of people are going to lose their jobs. But that's the unfortunate reality that policymakers and central planners have created in Canada, is they have created created an economy which revolves around a bubble, essentially. And obviously, as the global economy implodes, that's going to have even worse ramifications for Canada. And just to let you know, the Canadian dollar pretty much flat on the day, not too much action there. We'll continue to monitor the developments around that. So anyway, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd highly recommend that you check out this video here. Watch out for my video coming on Sunday. And if you're looking for a VPN to protect your privacy, go to expressvpn.com/marketmania. That's the VPN provider I use, and the affiliate link is in the description in the pinned comment. I will see you in the next